I'm Louie Mussett.
And Romuald Gorda. Rom.
Where are we recording now?
Now we are recording in the garden, on Louie Garden.
Yeah, in my garden. And we're outside.
Yes, and we are outside.
So actually, this is probably not very common that we're actually recording. There's no soundproofing.
Yes, that's really true.
There's no foam anywhere. We're just in the garden surrounded by plants.
No roof.
No roof.
Ceiling, yeah, no walls. No, never mind. But the point is that the modern UK flats are so small and in many cases are located in so noisy area. It's exactly my flat. In a pool, Dorset, next to main road, very noisy cars all the time. You even cannot open the window because when you open the window, you have a problem to speak to the other person because of noise. So with that environment, it's impossible to record good quality podcast. So we have to find some solution. So
well, compared to because a lot of people who listen to podcasts and stuff are from the US. Can you just explain the differences between like the massive load of space they have in the US and just the sheer limitation of size, not just of just outside space, but of just housing?
yeah.
Like my room, just to give people an idea, is 2 meters wide by about 3.3 meters long.
Oh gosh.
Just give you an idea. That's 6 for the Americans, because a lot of listeners will be from America. 6 foot by about 9 foot or 10 foot.
Yeah.
That's kind of the size that you're looking at. And some people think, from that size, that's like a cupboard.
Yeah.
So a bed is 2 meters by 2 meters.
Yes, and we are not going to be submarine sailors.
Yeah.
To be prepared all life long to live in a very small place.
Yeah. And most rooms in the UK are 3 by 3 meter, 4 by 4 meter if you're lucky.
Yeah. Even when you are going to the van, you are opening the van. Oh, it's so space here. It's more than in my room.
And the thing is about van, you don't have to sleep in it. It's not just size, but also just people living with you. Because a lot of people think that, you got your room, you can just record in it. But then you have, the other people in your lives who are interrupting you constantly.
That's really true. You have families.
Yeah. Because I'm not sure compared to a lot of other houses and stuff like that, but I find that when I'm trying to work on a project, like a personal project, you're on your computer, and then someone might come to the door like, oh, can you do some shopping, or can you do some laundry, or can you do some hoovering? Just general people around the house asking you different questions, or maybe someone's watching a movie and they're making noise, or, even someone, if you're trying to record something, someone doing hoovering.
Yeah.
Do you live near main road?
Yes.
So do you have like cops or ambulances constantly,
yes,
sirens
constantly
going on around you?
Yeah, that's true.
And
noisy bikes. Come on, I'm recording the podcast.
and the thing is, in our the houses in UK, they don't have any extra rooms. So you have the living room, you have the
bedroom.
You have the bedroom, so that could be upstairs. So, for example, a normal flat in the UK just has kitchen, living room, bedroom.
So in my flat is kitchen and the living room as a one.
Yeah. Oh, one, just the kitchen and the living room.
Yes, exactly. So if someone even just want to come and make a tea or coffee, still disturbing.
So we don't have an office.
No.
So this is what a lot of people find strange. Is that I don't know why, but in the UK we just have bedrooms, bathroom, living room, and kitchen, and that's it.
That's it.
So if you want to, you either have to do everything in the bedroom, or you migrate to the living room.
Yes.
That's the only locations you can do it in.
Lovely.
So basically, you can't escape even if you're living with one or two other people, you can't escape it.
That's really true. If you are lucky, have a house, you can have a conservatory, or you can just
But even our house, I'm living with my mum right now. We have at best just a living room and a dining room.
Oh.
Separate, and then the dining room separate from the kitchen, and then we have a little utility area for the washing machine and dishwasher. But that is just extremely limiting.
That's true.
And on top of that, what people don't realize in America is that we don't have any cupboards. I know this is very strange, but when I was living in France and Canada, all the houses had cupboards. And I don't know why, but like in the UK, they just like against cupboards. They don't like having cupboards. Like you have cupboards in the kitchen, right?
Yeah,
But you don't have cupboards in your bedroom.
that's true.
Like, you know, if you have you ever watched like movies on like Pixar or whatever?
Yeah.
And like every single kid has like a cupboard to put their toys in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, an extra room. We don't have that.
Extra space.
You know,
for
like
putting your stuff,
if you ever watched the Monsters Inc.,
Yeah.
the monsters came out the cupboard.
Yeah.
The thing is about the Monsters Inc., that world can't work in the UK because we don't have cupboards. So if the monsters try and come into our home, they can't because there's only one door.
So the kids are not as scared as in USA.
Yeah,
There's no
because
cupboards
there's
here.
no cupboards for the monsters to come out.
Lovely. So what's the solution? Let the office studio.
Yeah, because before we even tried, before we were trying to actually record videos before this, just to kind of talk about what we were trying to do before. So we were trying to kind of record in our bedrooms, just kind of videos and stuff, but we found that quickly that wasn't working out. Like you were trying to record YouTube videos.
Yes, that's
just
right.
to give an idea, and you need, and on top of that, you just need even more equipment. You need lighting, you need a camera, so that it was becoming just unmanageable. And so we were like, the first thing we were thinking about is getting an office, right?
Yep.
So, but how much does it cost to rent an office?
Oh gosh, it depends how big the office. But
Even the
let's say-
cheapest office.
cheapest. We didn't find anything cheaper than £200 per month.
200-300, and
Yes,
like you know, and
200.
if you're spending that much money just for a tiny little office with
Yes.
1 or 2 desks,
Yeah.
and those are small rooms, right? Like
Yeah.
the size of a bedroom. If you're lucky, if you're lucky, if you don't have a shared office. But I
Yeah.
think for some reason shared offices are almost expensive, aren't they?
Yes.
You
exactly.
actually have to. I think you actually have to rent a table.
Yeah.
I think it's gotten to the point now where you have to. If you have a shared office, you just rent a table. You don't actually rent a room. So then, like, if you want to rent a room, that's more expensive than renting a table. Because if we're going to make a video or record a podcast, you have to have your own space.
That's true.
That's just something, I'm just trying to go over the kind of location. You know, if you're in a shared office, you can't record a video or anything. You're surrounded by people, and people are not going to like that. So you have to have your own office. But again, you know, if you're not making money from recording anything, you know, for people like us on minimum wage, we just can't afford it. That £200-300, that has to go towards something, you know, food.
Yeah.
Going on holiday so we don't get burnt out from our work.
Yeah. It's another point. We try to get some studio. That studio costs £40 per hour. You have a professional equipment. You have a professional.
Oh, you mean like a recording studio?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, but it's really, really expensive.
And you have to kind of plan it out.
Yes, exactly.
Because you can only record it per hour.
Yep.
So that's kind of where we were. It's just all this money spending. We're not making any money at the moment. We have a minimum wage. I'll just give you an idea. The minimum wage job in the UK is like £8.91.
Yes.
And that's how much we're getting, basically, aren't we?
Yeah, that's really true.
That's like let's say 300 a month.
Yeah.
And that's how much basically we're making. And like if you spend £200-300, that's a third of your wage.
Yeah, that's really true. So we are trying to make the money without money.
So you're because in capitalism you kind of have to make money. You have to spend money to make money, right?
Yes,
that's kind of
money makes money, but we have no money, so which means we cannot make money.
But that's the internet has allowed us to basically, you know, you can make money now. Like YouTube, you don't need to spend a lot of money to make money.
Yeah,
you can just record on like just a webcam.
Yes, some people just done it just with smartphone. That's it.
And
we'll see how it works in our case, but never mind. So we just started. We're going to a place we have never been there, and we're trying to do something interesting. So, van. So I have the van.
How did you get the van?
I just bought the van because I was working the company, And
What kind of company? Was it like a...
yes, camper vans.
Oh, so are you a mechanic? So you're repairing camper vans?
Yes, and maintenance, and everything. So,
For the audience, were you maintaining the camper vans, or were you kind of doing a restoration?
no restoration,
So
just maintaining and fixing whatever is broken.
So you kind of got... Did you work on vans a lot in the past, or?
Yep.
But this is kind of just brought you back up to scratch. And did this kind of give you an idea about buying the van?
Yep.
So you what kind of van is it? Do you got?
The Ford Transit.
Ford Transit. So it's quite a popular van.
Yes, popular.
What year?
Oh, come on, 2009.
2000. Oh, that's not too bad.
Not too bad.
12 years old.
It depends. What do you mean? Not too bad.
Did you buy was it in working condition?
Yes, quite good condition and low mileage. So that's what is worthy to converting, making from the van to studio. This is the first idea was to make a camper van.
Oh,
but actually we.
What, with your family or just?
Yes, no, for the family, for a holiday. But much more important right now is to make some studio, to place to work, just to make my idea come true.
What just very quickly, what made you change from making it for like a camper van to?
The first thing, we need more seats instead of the beds. So probably we don't know.
Were you gonna install beds?
No. It was the first idea to make the beds.
So you were kind of going through the paces, and then it turned out that it wasn't going to quite work out.
Yes, because the table and the chairs and actually the seats are much more important from our point of view.
And will they be kind of strapped down to the floor, or are these free moving tables and chairs?
No, I just prefer to do something which is really designed for the fun. So
are these chairs and tables like kind of screwed down to the floor?
Yep.
Okay, so what kind of chairs and tables? Are like a bench?
Maybe. But I think the single seats are much more interesting, because even if they are screwed to the floor, always can be removed and we can rearrange. So just to make two rows, one facing another. So just to discuss with someone, we are seeing the face. We are not seeing one next to another, but one opposite another, if you know what I mean. And that's the first point. And another point, the proper size table, just to fit all the stuff we needed, the mics, the laptop and everything. And that's the place of work. That should do the job.
And on top of that, we can transport ourselves to another location.
Yes.
So instead of being like we were having a trouble of trying to meet up just for recording, and we were finding that even trying to rent a place, you had to travel to the office or whatever that you're going to rent.
Yeah. The main point is that in the garden right now, because we use the garden because it's good weather. It's not raining, it's not windy, it's not cold, but not gonna be like that forever. And England is England.
And what is it, September?
Yeah, it's the beginning of September. But what's gonna be in October, November,
Yeah, in the UK, was it a rainy country?
Exactly.
So
and cold.
We don't have a canopy on top. We can't shelter from the rain.
Exactly.
We could do a podcast on the rain.
Yeah, that's true. So it's another point to the van. We need the toilet, which is important, and the central heating. But probably I will buy some Webasto or something like that just to make...
Actually, because the back of your van is it separated by a wall from the front? Oh,
no, it's not. We just make the curtain over there because I just want to make it a 6-seater. So the row must be with the seat belts and everything ready. If I want to take the 3 passengers, it should be all right. Windows. 2 windows is a plan to fit 2 windows on the sliding doors, and opposite the sliding doors, the panel, make the window. Okay. And soundproofing. So some foams or something like that. Even those foams which are usually
There's triangle.
present. Yeah, in a studio recording, I just want to use them in a van.
But isn't this kind of going against like trying to save money?
You know, everything depends on the money. So that's really true. But I don't really think we're gonna do everything at once. So probably it's gonna be step by step. That's the idea. What money will help, or what money allows us to do, we will do.
And actually, it's not money you're just throwing away to a company. This is almost an investment. So you're spending money into a van that you're going to keep and spend for years instead of just trying to rent a office, right?
Exactly.
So it's a different type of spending.
You are renting the office. You are just throwing money away. Unless you are doing really, really making the money in this office. Good.
So the question is trying to find places to park, because that's the one thing we've been struggling today, is just trying to, because if we're going to do a podcast in a van, it's the hardest part is, you can travel in a van and that's all well and good, but finding a nice quiet area where there's not a lot of traffic to park, it's actually quite difficult to find in the UK, isn't it?
Yes, that's really true. It's not easy task because the roads are everywhere and the people are living everywhere.
And it's not just that, the roads are full of cars as well, like parked cars.
Yeah, but people are coming, going, making noise, the kids, the dogs barking or something like that. So, but never mind, we should maybe the forest area. Just
like as the New Forest is quite nice, because actually that's one thing, we live in Dorset, so you got the Ringwood New Forest. And we could probably just drive down, go into Ringwood, drive into the New Forest, and probably find quite easily a nice parking space, because there's quite a few areas around there.
Yeah.
But the only problem is we'd have no internet.
Yes, this is what we are talking about, and that's why we are pushed to record the podcast and then publish in the internet.
Because we'll be recording away from civilization.
Yep.
No shops, no public toilets.
No.
So we kind of have to kind of figure that out as we go. We can kind of, try and go in the bushes, but that's not exactly civil.
Yeah, that's true. So, why podcast?
A podcast is like a very relaxed form. It's not official.
I just only thinking about the different situations that people are every day. They're at work, they are driving the car, because some might think the video is much more interesting, is much more entertaining, but you cannot watch the video in every situation of your life.
So while you're doing laundry or while you're even out for a walk, you can just put your headphones in and just walk about and listen to it.
Yes, exactly.
And if it's in a very, actually, one thing I've noticed is, because we work in manufacturing, and the one thing is that I try to listen to a lot of books, but sometimes the books are very complex, a lot of complex topics. So if it's like a non-fictional book, you listen to a lot of technical details about certain things, and sometimes you have to concentrate on the information that's being described. While in the podcast, it's more kind of casual conversation.
Yes, and it's much more
digestible.
Yes, exactly. So you can think about this. You can have your own opinion about the topics is exactly discussed right now, and you can express this one. You can agree, you can disagree. That's. I think the podcast still has a future.
Actually, a few people think that a podcast is going to be like the new platform for the future.
Okay, so we will see.
It's kind of replacing radio, because radio is the old platform. And actually, basically, podcast is competing against radio. Because radio has been around since the radio was invented back in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s. Or whatever. And podcast is kind of the new medium. Because before you can only listen to a radio kind of either in the car or at home in your radio, next to the radio. But now with the internet and with all these devices, you can listen to a podcast anywhere, not just in the car while you're driving to work or at home while doing the laundry. You can actually just go anywhere.
That's true. I agree with you. Another point, Do you think that the podcast one day will replace the video, like YouTube platform or something like that?
Well, video is kind of just a different platform. It's a different form. It's a different medium. It won't replace it, but it's a very good substitute for when you can't watch video. I think you got to ask a different question, because you got video only kind of stuff. So back in when they were recording black and white, the old films where you had the piano in the background.
Yeah,
that was the pure video. That's when you only had video and no voice, because they couldn't do it. They didn't have the technicality of it. Because now we have kind of YouTube where you have both the video and the audio, and you kind of mix the two. You have music, you have the voices, and then you have clips from other shows and all that stuff. But the problem with that is that it gets extremely complicated and it's hard to produce. The production value goes up with the complexity of the formats you can include.
But I think that's all the platform gonna evolve and gonna be existing one next to the other. Depends on the situation you are. Depends on your likeness or dislikeness. Or you like it or you doesn't like it. It can be still continue. Podcasts and the video and the YouTube as well.
But there's also I'm not sure if you know now, but YouTube is trying to kind of merge everything into one. Because before, like, even podcasts are starting to come onto YouTube. And this is relatively recently. This is not like forever. It's been only in the last maybe few years. That maybe since maybe 2015, that's kind of when it really started to launch, where people started to put their podcasts onto YouTube. Because they found a lot of people were discovering their podcasts through YouTube. Because the problem, what I've found is through a lot of podcasts, is that not many people know. It's very hard to get promotion and all that stuff. Basically, when I listen to a podcast, not many people have probably heard of it, especially if it's not on YouTube. Do you see what I mean? Because YouTube is a very easy platform to share, while podcast is more, you can go on different platforms. And actually, the one thing that distinguishes YouTube and video and podcast is that podcast, because it's just an audio format, you can actually put it on many platforms. While video, it's because it requires so much bandwidth and you need a very good platform to watch it on with very good UI interface. You need to have a very specifically designed platform, while podcasts can be very malleable. The only thing you can really do with audio is you can listen to it faster on an app called Overcast. And actually what that app does, which is actually quite interesting, is that it cuts out all the dead space in between conversations automatically. I'm not sure if you heard of this, but if you listen to a podcast normally on a normal podcast, you have the full video. But if you listen to it on the Overcast app, it will delete the no sound places, the place where there's no sound. And it makes it basically so that there's no pauses between, and it's basically people just continuously talking.
Continuous talking. Yeah,
and people actually tend to listen to podcasts sometimes at a higher speed. They just want to get through it sometimes a bit quicker. So instead of listening to a podcast like 2 hours, if they speed it up, get rid of all the pauses, listen to it to maybe 1.25 times the speed, they can listen to it maybe 1.5 or 1 hour. Because basically, I've found that recently a lot of people are just trying to consume more content quicker.
Yes, that's really true. Another point is as well that there's some podcasts which contain more than one topics, and someone is just interesting. The one of this one, which is included somewhere in the middle, they just swap and jump quickly to the time needed and the listener. Yeah, could be, why not?
And what you're talking about here is different topics. Have you heard of the word tangent?
No.
So basically, there's like a very specific topic. Maybe let's say we're talking about making podcasts in a van or something like that, or learning how to make a podcast. That might be the topic of this podcast. But a tangent is when we go off topic. That's what they call when you've gone on a tangent. That means you've gone off topic, and you can make many tangents. So just imagine you're on a road, and that's the main topic you're going on, and maybe you get distracted by something off the road. You go off path, and then sometimes you go so off path you get lost, and you're like, okay, we need to find our way back to the main path because that's the focus of the podcast. But sometimes it's quite fun. Some people enjoy these tangents because sometimes you talk about a topic that might be interesting. They might be more interested in the off-topic tangent topic than the actual main topic. So sometimes it's good to explore, but the problem is getting stuck in the tangent and not returning to the original topic that you're originally talking about.
Okay. Can anyone make a podcast?
So going back on path.
Yes, exactly.
Can anyone make a podcast?
Yeah.
Well, there's actually a few things you got to think about. Like, do you have a good voice?
Yes.
Well, you'd be surprised. Some people don't have the voice to do a podcast. They can't pronunciate.
Yes, I know what you're talking about. But it's just only having a good voice or listenable voice is the matter of making a podcast.
Well, no, because some people can sacrifice a bad voice if their content's good enough.
That's really true. It's another point as well that not everyone has idea what to talk about.
I don't think it's necessarily idea. I think the thing about a podcast compared to scripted content is that podcast, you got to basically come up with ideas on the spot.
Yes. I will just tell you, there's a long time ago when I started to create the websites, and the one wise guy said that everyone should make a website. And the answer is not. The website should create just only someone who have something to say, something to publish, something to share with others. Just, the thing's not to copy what someone else says already.
Or don't make something for the sake of making it.
Yeah, exactly.
What I just want to say is, I think what you're talking about there is just the purpose of a platform, basically.
The purpose of the platform is to publish or to just convey the thoughts to others and make them interesting for others through just listening to. Website, you have to watch it, you have to read it, contents, and watch the images, look at the images, but with a podcast, you have to listen to. Your eyes are not involved to getting the information.
So basically, actually, you can just split it up into two types of platform. You got the visual platform, and then you got the audio platform.
Yes, that's correct.
Because a website and YouTube and Instagram and all these other things are all visual. You need your eyes open to see them. But you're talking about an audio platform.
Yes, exactly. And that's interesting that 80% of information which is getting to our brain, to our mind, are the visual information. Just only about 20%, less than 20% is the audio. But it's still very important things. As you just mentioned about films. 20th last century, the films with no audio, just someone was playing on the piano, and there was just video without audio, which is, we know right now is completely rubbish. So how?
Well, it's not completely, because you allow your imagination to do a lot of the work.
That's really true.
You put the audio, you kind of replace the audio in your mind.
Yeah, that's really true. But from the other hand, why right now does all the media are developed, even if you have the video or watching the good film, the audio is so important?
It actually depends on how it kind of affects your mind. Because, visual, you can have a difference between grayscale and color. That's why the news is all red, trying to provoke you. And then you got all these bright colors trying to draw your attention. While audio is a little bit more to it, because in visual you just got colors, but audio you have the volume, your tone, You can even hear how the emotion, if you're watching an actor. If you're watching an actor, you'll see the expression on their face. But in an audio format, there's more that you can kind of get from just speaking. Do you see what I mean?
Yes, but also the way you're speaking also convey the emotion. You say something with anger, I don't like it. Or, oh, it's so nice. And with your voice, you can also convey the emotion as well. I think the other point we just could discuss right now is how hardware is needed.
Actually,
to make
before
a
we go
podcast.
on to that, because before we were talking about just ideas, this might be a good point to go back to that point.
All right.
You know, we're talking about difference between visual and audio and just how people express ideas. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Just the different methods and different ways people express ideas. Or some people struggle to get ideas out. You have certain people that just can't create ideas on the go. They get stuck. You know, you try and, can you come up with an idea? And they're like, well, I don't really know. What do you mean? What do you want me to come up with? You know, they're not really thinking about things on the spot. While some people, you got them, do you have an idea for this thing? And they go, oh, yeah, just come up this is a name for maybe a project you're working on. Or maybe you're talking about some subject and they'll go, oh, but I've been doing this, and they'll create a story from it. Improvisation, basically. So you got some people who are very good at improvising and some people are not. It's a bit like a difference between scripted videos on YouTube and live videos.
Yeah.
It's like the difference between a book, like an audiobook,
Okay.
and like a video. Because radio is live. All the mistakes are there. And that's an interesting point, is that podcasts sometimes with editing, you can mask some of the ums and ahs and breathing and coughing and...
Yes, on the radio you cannot, especially with when you're broadcasting live the program.
Some people on YouTube creating a live video, but the live video is in the podcast format.
What do you mean?
Because I sometimes watch people who've made a podcast, right, on a podcasting platform, but have brought that to YouTube with the video of them talking. But then you have it live, and then they'll also have kind of the live chat, so they can kind of talk to people while they're on the podcast. Because we were talking about live streaming a podcast on YouTube. But what if you don't have access to the internet?
That is really complicated.
Actually, the one interesting thing about radio is that, like, they're technically not on the internet. It's a mixture.
Yeah.
Like, because technically you can have a radio broadcasting station that just broadcasts it on the radio waves, and then they just receive phone calls.
Yeah, that's really true.
So there's no internet.
Yes.
That's just interesting just in terms of the technology that's kind of come. Because now we're going to, like, do we record while being access to the internet constantly? Or do we record, like, while we're offline?
That is another point, because actually we can record directly and broadcasting via internet. Because of access to the internet is not everywhere, and the quality of the connection is not really good everywhere, then it's much easier and better to record the podcast first, and also to make it more interesting and put more contents to the podcast. Is better to record it. Record first, maybe edit, and then publish.
So we just need because sometimes the quality is affected as well.
That's really true.
And actually, what do you think the difference quality between like radio and podcast?
Yes, the radio. We are still talking right now about internet connection. If you have low speed internet connection, then quality always suffers. While the podcast,
you can download it.
Exactly. And you can still have the best quality you can.
So then the question is, like, how high should the quality be?
That's another point. Just acceptable, I would say. acceptable quality.
Because would you record on your phone or laptop using the microphones on there, or would you use a microphone?
Depends, because still comparing the recording without internet, you have always more options to do this. So you can use the better mics and then make the better quality recordings, and still your recording do not suffer of the internet connection. But while you are broadcasting, and then even the best mics, the best laptop, the best equipment you can have, but you have low speed internet connection, the quality always suffers.
So actually, just to a tangent, because you have like MP3 and WAV files. The reason I'm saying that is just because if you're transmitting online or on the radio, they probably just use MP3 files instead of WAV files because they're smaller.
Yes, they are compressed, but quality always suffers. It's just cutting all the frequencies not needed. Never mind, because for the podcast, honestly, could be exactly the same. And because of low size of the file, can be quicker transmitted. And still, the podcast in this particular case is much better and much more acceptable, even in low speed connection, the better than the video when you just stop and you just stop.
So you have all the lag and stuff like that.
Yes, exactly.
Actually, because audio quality doesn't suffer as much, does it?
That's really true.
So even if it's compressed or you do it online, it never kind of really suffers. You can even disable the video.
That's true.
So just kind of to talk about a little bit more about the hardware, like what are we using right now?
Right now we are using Rode NT-USB mics, both of us, and laptop Lenovo T430, not the newest one, but
yeah, and we got all
perfectly.
of this for like under £500.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, we can. I think we should be free to open to talk about price of stuff.
Yes, why not? Just to tell the people, you don't have to break the bank to buy the stuff or to acquaint the stuff ready for podcast and for the recording.
Because these microphones are like £80.
Yeah.
Which is not terrible.
Yes, exactly. And we have two mics because there's two of us. But when you are making the podcast on your own, just only one mic, one laptop, and that's it. And the software. The Windows, because we are using the Windows, you can use Linux as well. We will see maybe in the future. And the software we just find really interesting and quite really doing his job is the Reaper. Cocos Reaper.
So just going back to just the hardware, like, do you need any powerful computer to run podcast?
No.
So
that's the point.
You just you can run on a pretty low end as long as you can open a few applications up, maybe just watch a bit of YouTube on it. You should be able to run it.
Yes, exactly.
Because you don't need a good graphics either, because it's just CPU intensive, isn't it?
Of course you don't need it. It's just only about the audio compared to the making the video for the YouTube, when you really need the good stuff, good video graphic card, good laptop, and really expensive stuff just to make a good video quality for the YouTube and draw the audience. With the podcast, it's not like that. It's much, much cheaper, much, much more affordable.
So we talked about hardware, and is there a difference between recording and editing podcasts?
Yes, sir. After recording, I know that many podcasters are editing the files, and probably we will do as well. Depends how all the topics is developed and everything what we are saying is, if they're gonna be acceptable in the way as the first record is, we don't need the editing.
So if someone is just gonna try and start from scratch, how do they start?
The first laptop, I would say.
So
laptop.
Could they do it on the phone?
Yeah, I think so. They can do it on the phone as well. There's some applications.
Because the problem is that just the type, like for example, if you just record on, I don't know, if you're on an iPhone, you just kind of record a voice memo, because that's probably there's an app called the voice memo, right?
It is.
So I'm guessing that saves it as kind of like an MP3 or M4A file.
Yes,
but
that's
unfortunately, it's not WAV file. So is it preferable to record on a piece of software that can natively turn it into WAV?
Yes, especially if you want editing the file.
So basically, for a complete novice podcast, they need to find a piece of software that can record a podcast that needs to natively save it as a WAV file. Because when I first started recording, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
So as a complete novice too, like I was on Windows and I just used screen recording, which is the kind of like, not screen recording, voice recording, which is just a native app on Windows. And I did a few recordings on it, but it saved it as an M4A file.
Yeah. You know, I think the main problem is for the software to be able to editing, which means make a cuttings and copy, paste the other moment of the podcast just to make it nice and smooth.
Can that be done in a normal MP3 file?
Not really.
Because
software, editing software always is changing to the WAV. The most cases is changing to the WAV format, editing, and then you can save to the MP3 again. So,
can you
MP3,
explain, just as someone who doesn't understand, can you explain just what the differences are between the WAV file and the MP3 file? Because I'm still struggling to understand the difference as a non-technical person trying to explain just kind of the difference between those two files, because that's quite an important, it's quite like an important factor for MP3 files. Just like when you record it, you save it like the raw file as a WAV, and then when you publish it, you can convert it to MP3 later. So can you just explain the differences between WAV and MP3 and just why it's so important to try and record in WAV?
The WAV file is not compressed. It contains everything, every moment, every part of the second we are talking is recorded, so is in like, this file. And what is the funny? MP3 is compressed file. But there's two different kind of compression of audio files. One is lossless compression, which means after decompressing everything, you have exactly the same file which you compressed. But MP3 is not lossless. It's lost compression. Some information during the compression, they're getting lost. They're just gone.
Oh, so lossless is kind of just dumbing down the information, while lost information is you're deleting.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So it can't be recovered.
Correct.
So basically the difference between WAV and MP3 is that if you record in MP3, you can't recover the deleted compressed information.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm guessing if you save the WAV file, it'll be bigger. And apparently it's like, I did a test, it's like 10 times bigger.
Yes.
So like you have, I recorded a 10-second...
It's exactly 11 times, but never mind.
Yeah, because I've recorded like a 10-second clip.
Yeah.
And one of them was like, I think it was 300 kilobytes, the MP3.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 10-second WAV file was 3 megabytes.
Correct.
And just to give you an idea, Gmail has a transfer limit of 25 megabytes.
Yes.
So if you're sharing a file with a friend on email, you can only send a 25 megabyte file.
I'm very sorry for that one. But what is the point to send the file you just gonna editing?
Yeah, but for example, if you hire an editor.
That is complicated.
Yeah, no,
you have to find another platform to send him the file. It's, the musicians have exactly the same problem, because even 4 minutes audio clip, which is sending to someone for editing, is about 30, 40 megabits, even 60 megabits. And then you have to send to them, because absolutely is unacceptable from the music point of view to send the MP3, because it's not gonna contain every information you just recorded. So that's another point.
Because we were having trouble, weren't we? Like I recorded a video file and I was trying to send it to you.
Yes.
And even on like, for example, was a Dropbox, I tried to send you just a few megabytes, and you, for some reason, like your file was full or something, and I couldn't send it.
Mhm.
So it's it's so annoying just trying to send information between each person. You'd have all these technical problems. Sometimes I'd prefer just to transfer you through USB from one computer to another. Sometimes it's just easier.
Yes, exactly. So having the smartphone or laptop, mics, and from the podcast point of view is the basic, because what we need else is editing. So when you're recording, then editing. We can talk now about editing.
So the question is like, do you need editing?
Not really.
Because technically you can record an entire show and publish it.
Yes, but in most cases, if you don't need editing, the entire show should be well prepared. So make some rehearsals.
So show notes and just of go over.
Yes, and honestly, when you are going to do not edit, then sticking to the notes and not really allows you to make some
tangents.
Tangents.
Because if you go off your notes, then you kind of lose track of what you're trying to talk about.
Exactly. When you are trying to touch another subject, we are always sometimes not really creating the thoughts really smoothly.
And some people might get lost in the podcast and then they kind of switch off and go to another podcast.
Yes, exactly.
So if you kind of go off topic too much, people get disinterested.
Yeah.
So it's all about trying to keep it, because a podcast at the end of the day is an entertainment platform.
Yeah, but you know what I wanted to say, just making the tangents. Always you can say, it's it's just something not really fluent thoughts. And when people are listening,
so trying to think, you can't spend too much time thinking. You've got to just let it flow out.
Exactly. This is what I'm thinking about.
What kind of, do you need to have different kind of software? So you got like recording software. Does that need to be different from the editing software, or can that be bundled into one?
Yes, we are using the Reaper, Cocos Reaper. It's not free, but it's quite affordable, I would say, and is recording and editing software in the one, and it's doing really nice job.
Could you record on a separate thing and then edit on a different software?
Yes, of course.
But
yes, of course.
But doing it in one thing is just a bit easier, I guess.
Yes. And also, when you are trying to start your podcast and start recording, the main thing, the phrase is going to be one mic, one person, or two or more persons.
Because we're not using one mic for two people.
Exactly. We're using two mics.
Oh, so did you talk about with me earlier off the podcast about the difficulty of trying to record multiple microphones on the same editing software, or just same
recording software? Exactly. So some, if you are using more than one mics, some recording software do not recognize this one. It's putting everything to the one track, which makes it really difficult to editing.
And actually, just talk about very quickly about our microphones. They have two microphones technically in the microphone, two sensors, as you might say. Like a left and a right or one.
Exactly, stereo.
Because I think that's quite. Because what kind of just to go back, just in terms of the microphone, what kind of microphone are we using? What kind of it's because you got different types of microphone.
Yeah.
No, because that changes the way you record, doesn't it? If you got two, does it? Because does it change the?
Not really.
Not really? Oh.
If we are using, so we just put everything on a simplicity. So we do not using external audio interface. We just have the USB mics connected directly to the laptop.
And these microphones only have like a small, it's not 360. Do you see what I mean? Like you don't, so
yes, they're directional.
Directional, yeah.
Cardioid pattern.
What, sorry, what?
Cardioid.
Cardioid?
Cardioid, yeah.
Yeah,
something
okay.
like that.
That's what it's called, yeah.
Yeah, like a car. Yes, like hard. So in the front, the mic is recording really nice, like right
So
now.
if I go on the
But
side like this, it's a bit quieter.
yes, exactly the same distance from the mic, but you've been much quieter.
Hmm.
So,
Going back to recording.
yeah.
Yeah, because we talked about the MP3 and the WAV files, right? So I'm guessing you gotta when we first set up the recording, what did you have to do?
Yeah, the proper drivers.
Because what drivers did you install?
Yeah, because Reaper did not properly work with other drivers than Azure.
Why do you need drivers to record?
The drivers, because all the signal from mic to the software go smoothly and directly.
It's so you don't have any of that kind of technical glitches.
Yes, the latency.
Because I didn't know about this when I installed Reaper on it, and I didn't know you needed this driver.
Yeah, we needed this driver.
Is it?
So Reaper is actually the DAW, digital audio workstation, which is designed mostly for the musicians. So
not for podcasts?
Yes, not for the podcast.
But it's more advanced technically.
Exactly. Has a much more feature. Probably we will use some feature of the Reaper with the editing, because we have really strong editing side. And we can do this. And honestly, because of design for the musician, is the Azure driver is the best, working properly.
So what do you say? ASIO?
Yes.
So how do you say that again?
Yes.
ASIO driver. So is that like an open source software?
Azure for All is open source.
Okay, because you got some kind of software specific. This is
because
kind of like
some Azure can be dedicated to the audio interface.
Is this only for Reaper?
No,
Okay.
for any DAWs.
What's
any
a
digital audio workstation. Which one, Studio FL, Ableton Live, Cubase, tell me, Pro Tools. And
it's just I want to highlight this because for the non-technicals, some of these very simple technicalities they might skip over, and they might not be able to record because of just not recording software. So I think it's just important to highlight this for any one of the non-technical people trying to install I install Reaper and it's not working, what's going on?
Yes.
You
have to learn how to use the Reaper.
It's not
honestly,
not just click and play. You can't just
no.
So how do you what do you need to know? What's the just absolute basic things you need to know just for kind of any general?
Honestly, you need to know YouTube, Kenny Goya. And
Kenny Goya?
Yes.
What is that?
Is the guy behind the Reaper. He's not developer, but he knew almost everything about the Reaper and how to do. And you watch him how to start recording, how to editing, everything step by step, how to set up the mic and everything.
Just for people downloading free open source recording, there's one called Audacity, because I'm guessing most people will. We talked about this off podcast. We haven't talked about it online on podcast actually. Just because the difference between Audacity and this one, there's actually quite a few very important distinguishing features. Yep. Like destructive and non-destructive.
Yes.
Was it recording or editing? I'm not sure.
It's both. Audacity can record and editing.
Because technically you can record on Audacity, right?
Yep.
And then export it in any of the WAV or MP3.
Yeah.
But when you try and record on Audacity, it kind of destroys the file you're recording, aren't you?
No.
No?
When you're editing.
Oh, when you edit. So you record, it's fine.
Yes.
And then you save it.
Yes.
But when you try and record it and then you cut a piece out, it destroys that.
And say apply, click apply, then it's gone.
Gone.
Whatever
so if you try and
is gone.
So you try and
undo. No, it doesn't work.
There's no undo. So that's a lot of. Is that why we kind of chose Reaper? Because for the kind of long term, when you try and edit and do all these changes, got to make sure that there's no it's the workflow.
Yep.
Just make sure the workflow is nice and easy, because when you're recording and editing a 2-hour podcast or 1-hour podcast,
Yep.
you're going to make quite a few changes, because we might go on break or something like that, and we need to cut some pieces out, and sometimes you might want to move some stuff around,
Yep.
like some...
Yep. It's just one more thing worth to mention, that we just set up quite easy the Reaper to work with 2 different mics and recording 2 different tracks.
Actually, it might just be good just to talk about how we started this podcast. I downloaded Reaper, right?
Yep.
I installed it, and then we just installed that driver.
Yep.
And then we plugged it in, and we kind of just
Setting up, yeah.
select the microphones.
Yep.
And then we kind of just click record, and
record.
We had to play around clicking on the buttons, discovering what the buttons did and all that stuff. But in general, just clicking, once you got all the little pieces set up, you just click record and you're there.
Yeah. So with Audacity is the main point, so you can edit multi-tracks, so you can add the tracks, but recording, you can just only one track.
So on Audacity, the free open source software,
Yep.
you can only, so if you put 2 microphones, it'll kind of record it in one file.
In one track.
Well, it's kind of like a file, isn't it? Track and file.
The file is the final product. What you do. So
Because you're looking at Reaper right now. We got two sound things.
Yes.
So one of them is mine and one of them is yours.
Yes,
and
exactly.
each one is a track.
Yes, exactly.
So technically that's a file, but when you open it up in editing, you can see both tracks.
Yep.
But I'm guessing if you record in Audacity, there's only one track.
Exactly.
So even though it's one file, inside the file there's only one track. You
Yes.
can't split up the different voices.
That's the point. You cannot split up. You cannot apply different plugins to different tracks.
So for example,
because there's only one track.
If I'm talking over you, for example,
Yep.
I can actually cut that out.
Yes, and moreover, if we are overdub one on another, it's just the moments when we talk both very important things, we can split them and put them in the order, in the proper order. Just always one of us is heard.
So it's like a conversation. It's not just 2 people talking interchangeably and you're just hearing noise.
Yeah, yes.
Because I noticed
Just
a lot.
I like that. No? Just one trying to interrupt to another with his voice. So we can, with editing, we can edit and just cut off on split it, the timeline, just putting your thoughts and my thoughts after yours, for example.
Okay. So, I've never actually edited this is our first podcast. I've never actually tried to edit it. Have you tried to edit an audio file?
Yeah.
Can you just explain kind of how you do that?
Yeah. Yes, again, so it's all the tools you have in the Reaper. Why I'm just using the Reaper? Just only one thing's very interesting is that it's the simple software. It looks complicated, and the first time when you open it looks complicated, but it's actually very simple. When you try to learn all the features, they are not complicated. They are just what you need.
So it's a bit like kind of, is it a bit like Adobe Photoshop? It's got a lot of features, but you only need a few of them.
Yeah.
So technically, because this is for like music, there's a lot of stuff we don't actually need.
Yes.
So we just kind of need to cut and maybe fade in, fade out, and that's probably about it.
Yes. Copy, paste, that's it.
Yeah. So I'm guessing it just kind of has all those features on top of it being able to split up the tracks.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that you need just to have 2 tracks, you need to kind of pay for it, don't you? Because a lot of the free softwares, you can't really do it.
Yeah, so you might find another software which is really good with this one, but actually having a good knowledge of the Reaper and using this one for a while, for a couple of years so far, it's much easier for me to make the proper file in a proper edited file after all. instead of looking for another software. And honestly, from the other hand, just good software always costs them money.
Yeah, because I think even Adobe has a recording software and editing software. Because I remember looking at it and looking at the really high cost stuff, and I think Adobe, like, I don't know,
£40 per month.
Yeah, it's probably something like that.
Something like that. Yeah,
and that's per month. This is not like a one because you got these whole the lot like Adobe's got this whole subscription model where you before you bought it. But like for example, a Reaper, you can just buy.
That's it.
I think there's two of them. There's like the kind of non-commercial and commercial.
Yes, and they said that all those license just only depends on how much money you are making.
So is it like 100,000 or something?
No, I think it's about 50,000. I just have to check.
But it's nothing that we're gonna make
right now.
Unless we're like become a really big podcast, we're not gonna make that kind of money. Yeah. So we can buy the very simple non-commercial for like 50, 60, 70, 80 pound or something.
Yes, there's 60 something.
Yeah, something like that. But the commercial is like a few £100, isn't it? It's like £200 or £300.
200. Yeah, something like that. So it's another point which we are not really needed right now. So we are just focusing on even if it's paid, be affordable and do the job.
Because a lot of this Adobe and stuff, they can all quickly go into the hundreds and thousands.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyways, we talked about kind of physical location and then recording software. How about publishing?
Yeah, publishing is after editing. When you have your
I don't think none of us have actually published.
Yes, that's really true. We are just recording. We are on the step where you're just recording. We even didn't edit. So after this step, we have to make another step, editing everything, and make it, listenable. I don't know, is the word English or not?
Just make it kind of smooth talking.
Yes, exactly.
And then once we've done that, we need to find a way, not just how to publish, a format that can be published, but we need to find different platforms that we can publish to.
That's really true.
So what platform? Do you know platforms?
Yes.
Because actually, I'm the one who actually listens to a few podcasts.
Yep.
Do you listen to podcasts?
Yep. Yes, a couple of those.
Couple of them, because I have a few that I listen to.
iPodcast and Spotify, even on the YouTube and Facebook.
Facebook?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe I'm wrong. So never mind, we will cut this one.
No. I just want to say that it's not just because when you publish, you have to kind of put it, I think, in a certain format.
I'm not really sure.
Because we don't.
Yes, because when we have the WAV file, we can do any format we want.
So actually, publishing is not too bad. You just need to make sure. I think you have to register.
Yes.
I think that's probably going to be our main.
Like Spotify.
That might take a while to do. Is that if we have to register and wait and actually. I'm not sure because it depends on what platform. If you do YouTube, you don't really need to talk to anyone. You just create an account, submit it. And there you go. But if you do to like an iPodcast, Apple podcast, I'm not sure if you need to register or anything. That's something.
We'll find out.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. We can't really talk about, but should we focus on one platform?
I would say no.
Because I got a website, DO.WTK.com.
Yes.
That's what we're calling our website.
Yes, but the web. That's fine. And now you just touch another subject, promoting the podcast. So we can, of course, locate our podcast on our website. How many listeners we can have? How many people knows about the website?
Well, I can say right now it's at www.doyouwanttoknow.com.
Yes, exactly how.
I have to say that, otherwise people don't know what the website is called.
But yes, of course.
And then we'll publish. I'm guessing we'll create a blog post or an article. Yeah. That's what it's called. And on each blog post will be an episode.
Yeah, but how many people are gonna look for the podcast?
I think you might be surprised though, because I've been listening to quite a lot of podcasts, and a lot of people just put a lot of their content on the website. You'd be surprised how many people go to the website. And there's also another thing called, have you heard of RSS?
No.
RSS is kind of like a you can not sure if you subscribe or you just kind of follow an RSS feeder, and you can download an app which is an RSS.
I know what you're talking about. Yes.
So we can kind of
subscription. So,
but it's not paid or anything. It's totally free. It's just kind of you can listen. You can follow a lot of people like websites and podcasts and all that stuff on RSS and it's quite an old way of doing things.
Yes.
And I actually I remember listening to a podcast how because email has been kind of coming back. If you've ever noticed, if you ever go on any website, you have this little pop-up, really annoying pop-up that comes up and says, please subscribe to our email list.
Yeah.
And RSS and email, that's quite an old way of promoting things.
Email is the one of the oldest services we have on the internet.
But actually, and this is just one thing to point out, is that compared to other platforms like YouTube and just like Twitch and all these other platforms, Instagram and all this other stuff, is that if you want to publish on it, you have to kind of use it and subscribe and follow their models. But for podcast, you can kind of diversify it and publish wherever you want. If someone wants to listen, they can subscribe to RSS, they can follow our email list, and maybe we'll click a link or even a download. I'm not sure how we'll do it. Maybe we can even put our that's why I was talking about email earlier. If we put our email in a MP3 format, put it into email. I'm not sure if we can do that, if we can make it small enough.
Okay.
Actually, because MP3 is, you're talking about compression, right?
Yep.
So I'm guessing if we compress it too much, we could probably fill an email, but then that might affect the quality. I don't know, but that might be a good idea. If some people just want to get an email, and every time you get an email, you listen to the podcast, you just click on the attachment. Yeah.
That could be...
Even if the quality is affected, but they can go to the website to get the...
Exactly, link to the website, because on the website it can be more...
We can have the raw footage.
Yeah, yes, exactly. The footage and as well descriptions.
The show notes.
The links, yes, exactly. So someone can more benefit to going on the website.
Because on YouTube, the difference between like a website and YouTube is like on YouTube, you've got the video description, and then maybe a pinned comment from the creator. Viewers, but the thing is, not everyone reads it. You'd be surprised how many people just kind of skip over the description.
Not many.
So
unless you are just locate the very important information which we are talking about in the video. So click the link below, or all the description read below, or all addresses click below, and it's where I bought the background or something like that is link in description. Then the people are reading descriptions. Other case, probably not.
And just kind of, because at the end of the day, we're trying to make money, aren't we?
Yep.
So, we talked about kind of trying to promote our podcast. And it's quite, actually, we've been sat here in the garden. It's been quite nice just talking about different subjects.
Yeah.
And we're still beginners. We're struggling to kind of come up with ideas and stuff. But I'm guessing during our next podcast, we'll be a little bit more smoother with topics. And I don't know, maybe we'll experiment, see if we can go on tangents or not. Because we're still kind of experimenting. Sometimes we get kind of lost. I'm trying to write up when we talk about tangents and try and keep it, and so that when we publish our show notes, we can kind of show what we've been talking about. But the question is, though, is that, we record this, but how do you make money? Because that's the big question, isn't it?
Yep.
At the end of the day, we want to become self-employed and maybe do different things to make money and quit our minimum paying jobs. And we don't need to actually make too much money to do that. We only need to make like, I don't know, $1,200-1,300 a month. And we can kind of quit our jobs as our full-time jobs, but we'll probably need to make a little more on top of that, just to, you got a family.
Yes.
Yeah, because you got a wife and kids. I'm technically I can probably survive on maybe $1,500 a month, but you might need a bit more.
Yeah, because about amount we can talk later. The first, just find a way.
So
to make a money. So podcast,
because I've kind of looked into this a bit. we can technically kind of do like a Patreon, can't we? Because donation more like, because it's I don't know. I've been listening to a few people on YouTube talking about how some Patreon people are getting because there's a lot of censorship going around on YouTube. Like on YouTube, there's a lot of censorship, and sometimes even Patreon. If you look at their policies, they will. There's things you can't talk about sometimes. Like you can't talk about health or like cooking ingredients. Like you can't talk about this food will be healthy for you. Because I've read, that's the thing, you need to read the policies and the things you're allowed to publish on the Patreon donation.
Yeah.
And there'll be certain requirements, and you just need to follow those to make sure they don't go ahead. They don't keep the money and go, well, you talked about this subject. So again, it's something just to be aware of. But if you're just casually talking on podcasts, you shouldn't really be worried about it too much.
Yeah.
It's more about if you're promoting this heavily. If you mention it, they're probably not gonna. But because there's different donation platforms, I'm not familiar with all of them, but there are a few out there now. But that's not the only way of earning money, is it?
Yeah.
Because there's donation. The donation is kind of it's
donation.
Kind of,
Exactly.
You know how many of you have donated to Wikipedia?
Exactly.
It's.
I donated to Wikipedia a couple of times. Yeah, I did.
How much did you give them?
On the PayPal. I used the PayPal, and how much? £5.
£5.
Yeah,
but
a couple of times.
Yeah.
Because I think it is really, really useful website.
It's not the most reliable, but if you know, if you use the references and you know how to
to read properly,
because you can't just trust all the information. Again, that's just some people everyone can't double check everything.
Yes,
but it's good for just factual information, just general information. What plant is this, or what element? Like it's good, like kind of physics, chemistry, and kind of just general facts about certain things. If you're looking at kind of history, maybe that might be a bit pinch of salt. Take a pinch of salt when you're reading that. But so what else is there? Well, I think a few people kind of do like merchandise. But that's then something we'd have to arrange, you know. We'd have to have a whole logo and all that kind of stuff. And then you have to arrange with manufacturers and
find the sponsors.
Well, that's what I'm just saying that merchandise is different from sponsorship, isn't it? Okay. Because sponsorship is like a company, you read out like an advertisement, isn't it? Yeah. So I don't know, maybe because either a company contacts us or we have to get in, because I think there's a few companies out there that is kind of like a hub for advertisements. So you register to a company that is for advertisements, and what do you call it? Sponsorship. So you can register a company for sponsorships, and then that company will direct you to sponsors who may sponsor your content. And so if you put like a 30-second ad.
Yes, this one.
So this podcast is sponsored by X company, and then you read out whatever they want you to read, and maybe you can modify a bit of it. And you
buy our products because they are the best.
Yes, because any product that
you have never seen the products.
Have you ever had an advertisement that does not say good stuff about it?
Yeah, that's really true.
Oh, this product is so rubbish.
Yes.
Don't ever buy it.
Don't even think about this.
But so unfortunately, you just gotta make sure if we do that kind of stuff, we gotta kind of maybe use we're using Rode NT USB microphones,
Yes.
For if they came into contact with us, maybe we can promote them, because a lot of podcasts try and promote like products that they don't even use.
Yes.
So I'm not sure, but maybe we'll discuss that on another podcast. The kind of morality
exactly. And we should make the just podcast one just only about the making the money, just to make the subject more familiar with, and then we can talk the more. But now we just have the rough ideas about how to make money, and then we will see, because just in the beginning is very important to start.
So you can find us at www.doyouvantoknow.com.
That's a one word. Do you want to know? remember,
Yeah.
.com.
It's going to be a bit too long to... that'll be in our show notes.
Yes.
But unfortunately, we don't have a... I haven't set up email.
We will do this in the near future.
Yeah, and then because there's other things like we probably got to set up maybe YouTube.
Yeah, of
Twitter.
course. YouTube, Twitter.
Maybe Instagram.
Instagram, absolutely. Even Twitch.
Well, Twitch again, and that will go back to live streaming a podcast.
Yes.
But you can kind of do that on YouTube. But we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And we...
Well, the live streaming podcast we can do on the Facebook as well.
We'll see about that.
But yes, and even it's the way
but
to
we
do
don't
this
want to...
simultaneously for the YouTube and the Facebook at the same time.
But we don't want to outstretch ourselves. We'll probably keep it simple. We'll only have a few accounts.
Yes, exactly.
We'll stick to the website and YouTube, maybe.
Yeah.
So we'll probably publish this podcast on YouTube and our website.
Keep the website. I will try to listen. We just why do not try just two more, like a Spotify and iPodcast.
Again, yeah. We will
find out how difficult is this one.
This first episode we'll publish on our website.
Yep.
And maybe YouTube. If we can manage that. Look, I'll just keep it very simple.
All right.
Because that'll probably be difficult enough as it is just doing it on YouTube. So we'll keep it like that simple. And then maybe for our next podcast, we'll try and publish on Spotify and things. And we got the file, so we can try and publish it. So, but for the first one, we'll just keep it on our website. And
okay.
And I don't think we have a Patreon, so we can't. There is no method to receive money.
Yeah.
And again, so to make money, you have to have ways of them paying you.
Yep.
So some people do bank transfer. I'm not sure.
Yes, bank transfer.
I've never heard a bank transfer on a podcast before, like this account number and sort.
But we have PayPal account, so we can put the PayPal account.
Well, we don't have we only have personal.
Yes, exactly.
I'm not sure if we'll make a business.
Yes, for the podcast. We will see. We have to figure it out. Make another PayPal account just for the donation. From the people who want to sponsor us, because we are starting right now. We will see what future will bring.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for listening.